And good Monday evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of New York Giants Football Talk. I'm your host, Kenny Kay, and I'm here with my co-host, Paul Rosen. Paul, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well, Kenny. Good evening to you. Good evening, everybody out there. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have a great show, a lot of Giant talk, and can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. We got free agency started last week. We made some splashes with free agency and trades. We're going to go over that. We got
Both
some
good and
other
bad.
fun stuff. Both, what a roller coaster ride it was, for sure. Uh, you
Yep.
know, theme park, whatever theme park is in your area, just picture the giant roller coaster that tick, 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 and then down it comes and then up again. So, what a roller coaster of a ride. But that being said, we also have a special guest joining us in around 10-15 minutes. Our good friend Albert Dutchy Knoppers from the Denver Bronco Roundup going to come in, give us some outside perspective of some of our Giant moves. A lot of Broncos on the Giants now. We made some, and we're going to get his thoughts on some of those. And then we got some other segments with Albert as well coming up in roughly 10 to 15 minutes. Our good friend Graham Ticka, I hope I'm saying that right, Graham. Good to see you as always, my friend. Hey, are you sad
Hey, Graham.
Saquon's gone, especially to Philly? Paul, take it away.
Yeah. Listen, look. At this point, the numbness has slowly departed. What can you say? We wish it would have been any other team but the Eagles. He's gone. Look, the Giants didn't make an offer. He got the money that he was looking for. While a Giant, he was phenomenal. We wish him the best. What can I say at this point?
Just Graham is fine. Fair enough, Graham. I know that's a little hard last name there to get right. Forgive me if I did butcher it, but thanks for joining us as always, Graham. Always good to
Thank you,
see you. All right,
Graham.
Paul, let's get right in. Let's get right into it.
Yeah.
The running backs got paid, Graham saying. They absolutely did. There was the fast signings. But we'll start with calling this Welcome to New York. So let's go over some of our free agent signings. We'll do some of these quick, and then we'll get Dutchy in a few minutes. So welcome to New York. Let's start with the offensive line. Our historic offensive line, bad offensive line last year, historically bad. So we made a lot of moves. First two, I'll give you, Paul. John Runyon and Jermaine Elohmuner. What are your thoughts on both of these guys coming to the Giants? Runyon gets 3 years, $30 million. Elohmuner comes over 2 years, $14 million with the offensive line coach Carmen Brusillo from the Las Vegas Raiders as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First, John, excellent pickup. He was a very, very good player with the Packers the last few years. Very steady, healthy, which is a big deal as far as the Giants are concerned. I think you plug him in. I'm not sure if they're going to have him at left guard or right guard, but just put him in there. If he's on the left side with Andrew Thomas and with John Michael Schmitz at center, that gives you a solid left side of the Giants offensive line finally. Quick story about John Runyon Jr. As many Giant fans know, John Runyon, his father, and Michael Strahan were longtime nemesis when his father played, of course, for the Eagles. And actually, I read a story about how Michael Strahan and John Runyon's father was at the Pro Bowl out in Hawaii, and a woman comes up to Michael and says, "I'd like you to meet my husband." And Michael Strahan says, "Okay." Turns out it's John Runyon, who he had fought every year for a number of years. Turned out they sat down and became fast friends. And turns out now that his son is now playing for the Giants, and Michael Strahan is certainly tickled pink that John Runyon Sr. now has to root for the Giants as opposed to playing them for a number of years. So that worked out well, and looking forward to him solidifying that left side of the offensive line. As far as Jermaine goes, Elohmuner, another quick story. Of course, like you said, he came from the Raiders, and our new offensive line coach, Carmen Basillo, coached him up with the Raiders. He can play both guard and tackle. And the interesting thing is he watched his very first football game. He grew up in Africa and then his family moved to England. The very first football game that he ever watched was the first time there was a game in England. The Giants played the Dolphins in Wembley Stadium. Ironically, I was at that game. I went to London to watch that game as a Giants fan. So I feel a little akin to him. And he was just blown away by football and blown away by the Giants. And I don't think I've ever read a story about a new player coming to a Giant team as this kid. And I'm ecstatic. He can play guard, he can play tackle. And the fact that he's so excited to put on the Giant uniform, the blue helmet, he's just literally freaking out. And here's the other. I don't know if you read this, Kenny. Apparently, the Giants, Joe Shane, reached out to Evan Neal's people to inquire about whether he'd be able or would be willing to go to guard. So if he's willing to make that move to guard, and of course he did play some guard at Alabama, and you put him, Jermaine, at right tackle, that solidifies that offensive line. And if they can stay together, that could be a big difference in the way the Giant offense operates this year.
Absolutely, Paul. I want to catch up on some comments. Jody saying, get your Buzz Lightyear on, boys. Drew Lock is your new quarterback. Well, Dutchy's going to give us his take on Drew Lock in a few minutes. Our good friend Keith Brugman from Denver Bronco Roundup.
Hey, guys.
Dutchy's teammate. Check out these Giants in the podcast injury, Kenny and Paul. Well, Keith, check out one of your Giants coming on in about 5 minutes with us, Mr. Dutchy. But you guys are all Giants as well. I'm trying to think of a Bronco name for you guys for tomorrow night. I'll share on your Denver Bronco Roundup show for the intro, and you have your intros. Luke, your wife Luby saying that's right, thumbs up. Giants in the podcast industry.
Hi, Luby.
Graham's giving you. Graham's saying, what a story! What's your story about John Runyon? Good friend Mark Calderio, big Giant fan, saying, good evening, guys. And
hey,
Luby
Mark.
saying, you go, boys. You are the best.
Aww.
I got a couple more offensive linemen, Paul. I'll just go through these quick. Aaron Stinney and Austin Schlottman. This tells me the Giants, there's nobody that's safe on this offensive line. Getting 4 new guys coming over. Austin Schlottman comes over from Tampa Bay. 14 starts in his career. Comes over from, Aaron Stinney allowed only 2 sacks last year in 12 starts. Super Bowl champion with the Buccaneers, who brings over some Super Bowl pedigree with him, experience. Austin Schlottman, 14 starts with Dutchy's Broncos, Vikings in his career. So Bronco and Viking, former Bronco and Viking that I forgot that I mentioned early before Dutchy came on, but we'll get his thoughts if he has any on Austin Schlottman for us. Or Keith and Graham are Bronco fans too. Austin Schlottman, any thoughts on him? Graham saying former Bronco. All right,
yeah,
so
Stinney.
A couple more of the offensive guys. Oh, go ahead. You done? Good.
I was just going to say, Stinney actually started the Super Bowl that they beat Kansas City for Tampa Bay. So, listen, you bring a guy in, a veteran who can be a backup on the offensive line. I think that was a great move. Both those moves were excellent moves by Joe Shane.
Jody saying Schlottman wasn't good in Denver, and Graham saying he thinks he can play guard and center if his memory serves him correct. Eddie Murphy saying hello. I don't know why he reached out to Evan Neal's people. If he doesn't want to play guard, he doesn't play. I agree with that, Ed. 4 new guys coming in. Evan Neal might be on his way out. So, I agree with that. Let's get a couple more of the offensive guys. Devin Singletary. Of course, we lost Saquon Barkley, so we get a cheaper version of Saquon Barkley, in my opinion, and Devin Singletary. Career high, Paul, 898 yards last year. But the one that caught me, and I'm sorry, Kurt said hello earlier.
Hey,
boys,
Kurt.
Drew Lock starts over Daniel Jones by week blank. I wanted to get that question. Kurt.
Okay.
Drew Lock, if he starts week 1, Daniel Jones has seen his last game as a Giant. He's got an injury clause that if he gets hurt, the Giants are stuck with that contract. So, Kurt, Daniel Jones out, Drew Lock in. You agree, Paul?
I agree. Yeah, I do agree.
And then Graham, one more time with Schlottman. He wasn't more than a backup, but again, if memory serves him, he was fighting for the center job for Denver several years ago. So it brings some depth in the offensive line. Schlottman. Mark is saying we need one more cornerback from our defense. We'll get into that later, Mark. I got a bold prediction. I think we may go corner in the draft, in a trade back. So I got a little bold prediction coming up later. Devin Singletary, 898, 30 receptions is what caught me, and 26 runs over 10 yards. Does it sound like a cheaper version of Saquon Barkley, Paul?
Well, he's going to wear number 26 from what I heard. So we might be getting a smaller version. But listen, he's played very well both with Buffalo and last year with the Texans. And I like him. I think he's going to give us a burst that maybe Saquon perhaps didn't have. And I think his yards per carry were better than Saquon's over the course of his career. So, you know what? It's going to be a backfield by committee. They're going to bring in another running back. I'm sure they'll probably draft someone and combine him with perhaps both Eric Gray, who's still on the team, and with Singletary. I like the pickup. Obviously, a much cheaper version. He wants to be here. He knows Dable's system, so I think it fits well.
Mark wants a free agent for corner. I kind of like this corner class. I think there's a lot of studs in the first and second rounds you can get. Hey, did we get A.J. Dillon from the Packers? I haven't heard anything yet, unless it's breaking news. Not yet.
No. He re-signed with the Packers. There was some rumors about him possibly coming to the Giants, but he re-signed with the Packers, unfortunately.
Mark's going to like this. Don't be surprised if we go get running back in the 3rd round or 4th round, Mark. Blake Corum might be a name coming over. Mark's a big Michigan fan. Blake Corum would be a nice pick. Graham's a big Singletary fan. I like that, Graham. And so one more, Paul, and then we'll get Dutchie in to join us to get some of the Bronco players and our big signing I'm going to save for the end. But let's talk defensive side. We got one defensive signing. We lost the big name we lost in free agency, Xavier McKinney. The Packers are getting one heck of a safety to lead the back end of their defense for a few years now. But replacing him will be Jalen Mills. We signed in free agency, coming over from the Patriots, coming over from Belichick's defense. 7 years in the league. He's 8 years in the league, 7 interceptions, Paul. A little cheaper version, be fighting for that starting job, probably with Dane Belton, who I absolutely love. So Dane Belton's may get a shot. So I like to see that. But Jalen Mills comes over, Paul. Any thoughts on Jalen Mills?
Yeah, listen, you bring in a guy like that, a veteran, someone who's played on good defenses. Obviously, the last year or two, the Patriots have not had that good a team. But anybody that's played with a Belichick team has the savvy, the know-how, the intelligence, because obviously Belichick wants smart football players on his defense. So you bring in a veteran like this, he's surrounded by some young players like a Deonte Banks, like you said, Dane Belton, Jason Pinnock is still a young player. Hey, it can't hurt to have a savvy veteran like him in the back defensive secondary.
Absolutely. And Mark likes the Corum pick. I knew he would. Eddie doesn't think Gray makes the roster. Eric Gray fighting for a running back spot. Returning is Casey Kreider, long snapper. Benton Whitley, special teamer. Gunnar Olszewski coming back. We liked him. He gave us a little spark as a punt returner. And a special teamer who's been with us for few years now, Carter Coughlin also coming back. So good to see some of those guys coming back. But we got some more signings, and a lot of these guys have ties with the Broncos. So I'm going to bring in our guest for the evening.
Well, let me just, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
He wasn't technically a free agent, but why don't we talk about arguably the biggest pickup that we got on defense?
I was going to save that for the end. I got that in there.
Oh,
Our biggest signing
okay.
at the end.
Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, no, it's okay. I didn't specify it. So we'll get the smaller signings first, and then we'll do our big signings. So that being said, I want to welcome our good friend, everybody's good friend, Mr. Mile High Dutchie himself from the Denver Bronco Roundup. Albert Knoppers joining us. I'll give you the Denver Bronco clap. How you doing, Albert?
I'm doing excellent. It's good to be here in one of the greatest shows, just like ours, the Denver Bronco Roundup. It's always a pleasure to be among friends, and you guys are family. That's what it
Absolutely.
is. We have such a great collaboration between the two podcasts. It's amazing.
I couldn't agree more, Dutchie. I'm going to catch up on the comments, and then I'm going to give you a couple minutes to talk about Denver Bronco Roundup before we finish our free agent signings. Graham's telling me Casey Chrysler was also a former Bronco. Did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
And he's also giving you a shout-out, Dutchie. Kurt's saying Jets going to draft Brock Bowers with Rodgers. Wow. And Eddie's saying good communication between hosts, LOL, making fun of Paul jumping in there wanting to talk about Burns. And one more from Keith.
Man.
The Lions once traded up from 12 to 6 to get Paris Johnson. The compensation, 12, 34, 168, but also sending 81. Do you make a trade with the Broncos for 6 and take the number 12 and 76? No, I don't, Keith. I want more. If you're moving up that much, it's got to be a future number 1 or Patrick Surtain for me, or I'm out. But Dutchie, why don't you talk about Denver Bronco Roundup? Give us what we got going on there, and then we'll get your thoughts, outside perspective of some of our free agent signings.
Yeah, well, the Denver Bronco Roundup is a team of 4. Some people call us the 4 Horsemen. It starts with Keith Brugman, and that's how you officially pronounce it, Brugman, because it's a Dutch last name. And then you have Jody Moncrief. He is taking care of some business at home, so but he will come back soon. And then it's me, Dutchie. And then we have the Rocket Man, Trevor Salzman. Every Tuesday evening we will be there at 7 Pacific Mountain Time. No, Mountain Time.
So 9 Eastern for those here on the Eastern Coast.
Yeah.
For most of our family is 9 p.m. for East Coast.
Yeah, and 8 o'clock for me because I am in Central Time. And then on Fridays we have a show. Most of the times it is just Keith and Trevor. And then when the season starts back up again, we will have also Sunday shows after the game, and then we will do our initial review of the game, what we thought about it, and if it was good or bad. And most likely the next season, I don't think we will hear much good, but that's something we have to wait for.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dutchie, again for joining us. I'm going to ask Eddie's question first, and then we'll get into the following. Would you trade the 6th pick for the Vikings 2 first-rounders, Paul?
Yes, I would. I would without hesitation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would too. Dutchie, would you make that trade?
It depends what type of first rounders. If it is the 28th and the 30th, no.
Yeah, it's going to be 6 and it's going to be 11 and 23.
That I would do. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, fellas, let's continue with our free agencies. I'll start with the smaller. I'll start with the smaller of the Bronco former Broncos up to the biggest former Bronco. First one, I'd like to know, Dutchie, what we getting out of Chris Manhertz? I looked at some of his stats. He's been in the league for a while. He only has 26 receptions, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sounds like more of a run blocking tight end to me, Dutchie. What are we getting out of Chris Manhertz?
That is exactly what he is. He is a run blocking tight end. You can rely on him. He is very, very good in a run block. And once he gets an opening, yeah, you can take a ball to him. He will be able to get some yards after the catch because he is sturdy enough to do so. Um, we didn't see much of him in our game last year because uh, the coach that we had did, and we have still, didn't really play out to the strengths of the players. And I hope that's going to change. Let's see what it bring for Manuts, and I hope that Manuts gets some better coaching and better role in with the Giants because he didn't get it with the Broncos.
It sounds like they're working on the offensive line and bringing in a run blocker, Paul. Sounds like they really want to solidify this run game with the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
So any thoughts on Manhurts, Paul, that you want to add for?
Just quickly, obviously, not knowing what Darren Waller is going to do, I think the Giants are trying to load up on the defense on the tight end position to see what happens if Waller does decide to retire, and this way they'll have some depth. Not that Manhurts is similar to Waller, but at least to have some depth in the tight end room by training camp.
Another tight end I forgot to mention earlier, Jack Stoll comes over to the Giants from the Eagles. 23-year career, 20 catches, 183 yards. So sounds like another run blocking tight end there with him. The second one, Dutchie, we signed a former Bronco wide receiver. He last played with Buffalo Bills, but started his career with Denver. And that's Isaiah McKenzie coming over, Dutchie. What are we going to get out of Isaiah McKenzie? You remember Isaiah McKenzie with Denver?
You will get decent speed. He is a great catcher, and he is a tough guy. And I really was sorry that they let him go because he was very good. He has, like I said, decent speed, great hands, and he can run pretty much almost any route. But yeah, he did not get enough chances with the Broncos, and I really liked him as a player, and I would get him taken back as soon as I could, but it doesn't happen.
That's great news. And McKenzie was bad with us from Graham, but rejuvenated his career in Buffalo. So Graham's agreeing with you. Michelle is saying evening, gentlemen. Michelle Knopper's your lovely wife there, Dutchie. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Michelle.
Yeah, that's like Paul. I see some of his stats: 152 catches in his career, 1,427 yards, 50 rushes in his career. So we're getting that little gimmick guy out of him for 244 yards, and he has one punt return touchdown. So something happens to Gunner, he can go back there and return kicks for us too. So what are your thoughts on Isaiah McKenzie there, Paul? I like the signing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. Do it all type of gadget receiver, fast, shifty, like you said. Let him fight it out maybe with Gunner in preseason to see who might be returning punts. A guy that's played with Dable in Buffalo, so he sort of knows the system. Could spell Wan'Dale Robinson, use him on jet sweeps and things of that nature. So I think there's a lot positive and very little negative about the signing.
Yeah, absolutely. Jody's also saying can return punts. He's also confirming that. And this is the fun one. This has been back and forth with Kurt as a Bronco fan and you guys as Bronco fans. Drew Lock comes over to the Giants. We all know he started his career a few years ago as the second-round pick, Dutchie, for the Broncos. And for some reason, Vic Fangio did not like him and went with Teddy Bridgewater instead. And he went over to Seattle. He now comes over with a chance, and I say a chance because we don't know what the Giants are going to do in the draft. So he comes over with a chance to be the starting quarterback for the Giants, Dutchie. And I know there's going to be some mixed feelings about we got some fans in the Bronco fans in the audience. There's going to be some mixed feelings about Drew Lock. So I would like to hear yours first, and then I'll read the comments, and then we'll get Paul's and mine as well.
So yeah, Drew Lock. I'm a big fan of Drew Lock. You saw the last five games of his first season with the Broncos. He was with Luke Scangarello as the offensive coach, and he pulled certain things out of his head, and he was very good. Does his foot at that time his footwork could have been a little bit better, but I think he has great talent. And then with Vance, who came in, he never got a real chance. I think with the Fangio with the Broncos ruined it for Drew Lock, and I think that's so sad to see because I think Drew Lock is a starter, and we have seen it with the Seahawks. He started a couple games, he won them, and I think he's gonna with Daniel Jones, he's gonna fight for this position, and he might just get it. Because that good, Drew Lock is that good. I think he is better than Daniel Jones, to be honest. But he needs to be given a real chance and somebody who understands how he is playing and put him in the right system. And then it will. Yeah, he is. To me, I think I am ashamed of how the Broncos have treated him, and that's how I think about Drew Lock.
Thanks, Dutchy. For that intake. Let me catch up on some of the Isaiah McKenzie responses. Graham saying he just needed a few years, McKenzie, to improve, and there we go. Really impressed with his improvement. Keith is also saying McKenzie reuniting with Dable, and the Giants need the wide receiver depth. Good match. Jody saying a true slot wide receiver. So, Paul, a lot of love for Isaiah McKenzie from Bronco Nation. Now with the Drew Lock comments, and then we'll get your thoughts, Paul. Graham's wishing Drew Lock the best. Jody saying a cannon arm that needs some coaching to work on his touch. Graham saying Fangio hated Drew Lock. Keith saying, in my opinion, Drew Lock is a better and cheaper Sam Darnold. Kurt is saying his boy Drew Lock. Kurt is saying, what kind of blanking moron puts Bridgewater over Lock? Kurt's in a good mood. I can see from last night still. His boys at St. John's, unfortunately, didn't make the tournament. So he's still, I'd be having sour grapes too because they deserve to be in the tournament. Drew Lock 100 times better than Daniel Jones. Night and day from Kurt Valenti. Paul, your thoughts on Drew Lock? Because when we signed him, you thought it was like, oh my God, what a joke. And it wasn't a joke. We got Drew Lock.
Yeah.
We're cousins in the podcast world and fans, Giants, Broncos. You see how many Bronco fans we got in the chat. So this is fun.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we've had a number of shows, whether it's K&K or a Giant show. Who would we like as another quarterback to come and join us, whether it's a free agent or a trade or what have you? Drew Lock was never one of those names that any of us had come up with. So it was a little bit of a surprise when they announced the Giants had brought him in and signed him as a free agent. But all that being said, listen, no one knows what Daniel Jones is going to give you coming back from serious injuries last year. You bring in a guy, he started both with Seattle, obviously with Denver, and you give him an opportunity. It's also ironic that Seattle last year came in to play the Giants on a Monday night game. Geno Smith got injured for a while. Who came in? Drew Lock brought the Seahawks down, scored a touchdown. I don't know if he threw a touchdown, but they scored on the only drive he came in. So Giants have seen him up close and personal, and perhaps Joe Shane and Brian Dable had him rated fairly high when they were still at Buffalo when he was drafted a few years ago. So listen, he's young. If there's some interest and he wins the job, go for it. Let's see what happens. At this point, nobody's going to be married to the way Daniel Jones has played. And like I said, with his injuries, you bring him in, have the competition, training camp, preseason, and let the better man win the job at this point.
I'm saying maybe he does well as a starter. He wasn't a good starter with the Broncos, but he might be a career backup. And he remembers that game. Yeah, it was Jackson Smith and G, but it was a touchdown. to Jackson Smith and Jeepa. 28 seconds left on the clock. I was looking that up here just to confirm it. Yes. So what I think the Giants are getting, they're getting a big arm quarterback. And did Brian Dable not have that with Josh Allen in Buffalo? And this is what I want. I want a big arm quarterback, whether it's a rookie or a Drew Lock type, to throw the ball deep to Jalen Hyatt, our speedster. We did not see much of that last year, and that's because of our offensive line not giving the quarterback time. But you get some time and just throw the ball at Jalen Hyatt deep, because this kid Jalen Hyatt could be special with his speed on the outside, and you got a cannon of an arm, like Jody said. Drew Lock may rejuvenate his career. We'll see. Or let's wish the best for Drew Lock, because I do think Daniel Jones has seen his last snap as a Giant. I do, because of that injury clause. You don't want to be tied. Dutchie knows, and Keith and everybody knows. You don't want to be tied to a quarterback, and then you got dead cap like the Broncos ended up having. So let him sit on the bench. Let him, pay him the $40 million. The other guys are cheap, and that's what I think the Broncos should have done with Russell Wilson, was keep him. You don't want to play him, keep him on the bench, for an emergency. But they let him go, and now we see what the Broncos, unfortunately, are in right now. But let's just hope the Giants don't make that same mistake and move on from Daniel Jones. It's time. All right, boys. So we got one more, Dutchie. That was our Bronco ones, but our big move was a trade, and we had that roller coaster, Dutchie. We were going up, and we were climbing, and then we came down, and then we went back up when we lost Barkley, but we went right back up when I heard the news, and Paul and I shared it with each other. The Giants made a move for an elite pass rusher and traded with the Panthers for Brian Burns for a 2nd round and a 5th round pick. And last year, they declined. The Rams wanted to give them 2 first-round picks for this guy, and the Panthers said no. So a steal. They're paying him 5 years. They're paying him some big money, it was $30 million a year. But they're getting, in my opinion, a top 3 pass rusher with the chances to be the top pass rusher in the league. Paul, I'll go to you first, and then we'll get Dutchie's outside perspective of the deal.
Yeah, Kenny, you well said. The fact that they were able to get him on such a low 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick was a steal. I think one of the guys, I think it was Damian Woody on ESPN, almost fell out of his chair describing how the Panthers essentially just gave him away. Like, how were the Giants able to get this guy from Carolina? I mean, you're talking about one of the premier pass rushers. Plus, he's only 24. I think he's going to be 25 next month. So you're getting a guy in the prime of his life. The Giants needed, besides Kayvon Thibodeau, they needed a guy on the other side. Unfortunately, a guy that they thought, Azeez Ojulari, has been injured the last 2 years. When he has played, he's been effective. But as Kenny has heard me say time and time again, the best ability is availability. And if you're not on the field, you're not helping the team, which is actually a great factor where Brian Burns, I think, has missed a total of 1 or 2 games in his whole career. So the guy comes to play every single day. And you put him on one side, you put Kayvon on the other side with Dexter Lawrence in the middle. You have the makings, and Bobby Okereke at linebacker. You have the makings of a really, really strong defense. And that's what we're looking for. Again, as many Giant fans know, we've won over the years with strong defense. So excellent trade. Great job by Joe Shane in that first day of free agency. And as far as I'm concerned, that was an A+ in my mind.
A quick hellos. Clayton Huron, fan of the Denver Bronco Roundup, joining us tonight, saying, "Hey guys, smash that like button and share." Denver, it's up, Clayton. Thank you, Denver Broncos for life. Let's get our quarterback, Dutchie. He's saying, "Thanks, Clayton, for hanging out tonight." Graham is saying, "Glad Burns didn't head to the AFC." Keith is saying outside of last year, he's been a 9-sack guy and he didn't play every down. Are you okay with those snaps and that production? I'm glad you asked that, Keith. I'll go real quick, Dutchie, and then because I'm going to give you some stats. Played on Carolina, a 2-15 record last year. 2-time Pro Bowl in his first few years in the league. He had the Panthers as a team last year, Keith and Dutchie and Paul, had 27 sacks. He had 8 of them. He must have been getting we don't see much of Carolina, small market, bad record. I'm guessing the guy was double teamed probably on more than half the plays, and he had almost half the team's sacks. So I am okay with that, Keith. I think we're going to get production because on the other side is Kayvon, and I think it's going to be bookend nightmares for quarterbacks this year, and I'm excited about it, Keith. So I think he will and could achieve easily double-digit sacks for sure. Dutchie, outside perspective, Brian Burns coming over to the Giants. I gave you some of his stats. What do you think we're getting?
So how old is he? 25?
I believe he's going to be 25.
Going to be 25, and he's already got 46 sacks in 5 years. So he's averaging 9 sacks a year.
I don't think he has hit prime yet. I think that is coming still. 27, 28, then he will hit his prime. So you have a bright future ahead of him if he can stay healthy. I think you might have a Von Miller.
Mm.
Nice. That's a nice comparison.
Yeah.
I'll take that any day.
Yeah, really.
It took Von Miller a couple of years too to get good, and he got in his prime after about 4 or 5 years. That is when he got in his prime. So you still have a couple of years ahead before he really hits prime. And I think you guys have a steal in this guy, and I hope you can keep him healthy because he's gonna be, Who are you gonna defend? What poison are you gonna take?
Mm-hmm.
Left or right? That is the questions opposing defenses will have, of offenses will have.
And I was just going to say that, Chief Paul and you guys in the audience. I was like, Kayvon Thibodeau was in the same boat last year. He was producing almost half the team sacks last year. So now you get both of these guys. You got to expect easily 10 to 15 more sacks from the defense this year as a whole. We had 30-something sacks. Now we're going to probably be in the 40s this year just by that addition and freeing other guys up, And, where Wink Martindale liked to blitz, you get this 4-man pass rush, which our new head coach, new defensive coordinator likes to get the pressure with the front 4 and play back with the secondary. This fits right into his scheme, getting this big edge rusher signing. So I'm excited about it. I know Paul is, and let's wish him the best. Anything else free agencies, guys? Did I forget anybody? Do you guys want to mention anything that I may have forgotten before we move on to our next little segment?
I think the Broncos got a really good deal with the defensive line.
Give us a little quick take on Broncos. And you got, what is your favorite signing of the offseason?
I think so far my favorite signing is that new defensive lineman, Stouch.
Oh, Roach.
Roach, yes.
Comes over from Saints. Yep.
I think
going to be a run stopper. Yep.
Yeah, that is something that the Broncos were lacking, and I think that will help DJ Jones out. That will help our pass rush out because last year our run defense was just one big hole, and I think that has now majorly improved. And so far, Roach is my favorite signing. It just happened Friday.
Yeah,
so,
it was Thursday or Friday.
Signing.
Yep, that was a good one. I agree with that, Dutchie. You needed that, and it's a good pickup on the cheap end too. I'm going to pass it over to Paul because we had big news in the NFL this past week, Paul, and you have a question for us in the audience regarding the news. So I'll pass it off to you, and let you take over.
Okay, thanks, Kenny. So we probably all have heard Aaron Donald retired unexpectedly this past weekend. Needless to say, Aaron Donald was one of the greatest players, defensive players in NFL history. So my question to you, guys, and everyone out there is Aaron Donald this generation's greatest defensive player, or is Aaron Donald the greatest defensive player of all time? And I'll go to Dutchie since he's our guest first. Dutchie, what's your feeling?
Real quick, Keith's saying Dutchie loves bringing in the Saints players.
To be honest, I do not. But that's code Sean Payton for us, and it is what it is. Like Kurt says, we are in bed with Sean Payton, and that's what we have to deal with. Aaron Donald, great defensive player. But do I think he is the greatest of all? I don't think so. I think there's one player that is even better than all of them. Because who can say that they can play on the top of each defensive positional line of all? Karl Mecklenburg. And yeah, I haven't seen him playing much, but from what I heard and what I've seen, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame because he did something that no other one has done so far. And I think that's why Karl Mecklenburg is for me the top defensive player of all time. But yeah, Aaron Donald, he truly deserves to retire. He was excellent. I think on par with Von Miller when he was on top of his game. He was always a weapon to be considered and to be afraid of. Aaron Donald. So yeah, he is a top 5 guy for me all time. Absolutely.
Thank you, Dutchie. What do you think, Kenny?
I'm sorry, Dutchie. I love you, but I gotta disagree with you one time. Okay, this is a Giants show, so the greatest of all time has got to be Lawrence Taylor. But generational for defensive tackle, I'm not even going to go Aaron Donald best. Okay, I got to go with our rival Eagles. Rest in peace, Reggie White, best interior lineman of all time, in my opinion. I will say I didn't see much of Karl Mecklenburg, a hell of a player, Dutchie, so I'm not going to say he's not on the tops. And yes, he should be in the Hall of Fame. I will say that from hearing and remembering Karl Mecklenburg. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Aaron Donald, I'm going to say yes, Paul, about maybe a top 5 player. And for this generation, how far are we going back? Well, 10 years?
Yeah, I would say 10, maybe 15 years. Yes.
I'm putting Ray Lewis ahead of him if we're going to go close to that generation. That's borderline, but Aaron Donald closer in the last 5 to 10 years, Aaron Donald, but Ray Lewis would be ahead of Aaron Donald for me. But top 5, I would say, and go from there. But a couple people keep saying, I'll give Donald this generation's best defensive player, but not ever. Give it to Reggie White at his position, and Lawrence Taylor takes the cake.
Yeah, yeah, I would. But
I was just going to say, a good friend of ours, Jerry Murr, saying hello. Still think Drew is a franchise quarterback in waiting. So another one from Drew Lock there, Paul. More love from Drew Lock. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you guys off.
Dutchie, you were going to say something?
If we talk about generation, last 10, 15 years, let's not forget J.J. Watt.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, and LT were the only 3-time defensive players of the year. So, yeah, that's a good point, Dutchie. You know, being a Giant fan and watching LT, and actually Bill Belichick has made this statement: don't ever compare anyone else with Lawrence Taylor. So, if Bill Belichick has the ability to say that, that's good enough for me. Aaron Donald, I mean, just to read some stats: 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time First Team All-Pro, 10-time Pro Bowl, Rookie of the Year, Super Bowl champion, fantastic player. Probably this generation, but all time, nobody but LT. And I did see Carl Mecklenburg, actually, Dutchy. Great player, great versatile player, can play all up and down the line. So his versatility was phenomenal, very underrated, and probably should be in the Hall of Fame. But yes, fantastic player when he played with the Broncos. All right.
Great job, Paul.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I just want to say I posted in, okay, real quick, Paul, if you got something, then I posted something in the chat that I want to share with everybody, but I'll let you go real quick.
I was just going to say, now that Aaron Donald has retired, follow-up question, who is the best defensive tackle in the NFL? Personally, I think it's our guy, Dexter Lawrence. He was rated by Pro Football Focus as the #1 rated defensive tackle. I don't know. Dutchy, what do you think? Is Dexter Lawrence the best tackle in football, or is there somebody else that you think that might be better than him?
I don't want to wipe out Chris Jones either. He is doing he's playing a very high level. Chris, to me, it is Chris Jones.
Okay. Kenny?
Yeah, I'm with Dutchy. I'm going to go Chris Jones. Dex has a chance, though. This year, hey, Brian Burns on the side of you now. Now, Dex, now it's time for you to shine in the middle. So you got a chance, Dexter, to step up. But Cam Hayward would be on that list, too. He's pretty damn good over there in Pittsburgh. But I'll give Dexter #2 right now. Chance to be #1.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Go be #1 now. Real quick, Paul, I wanted to say to everybody, I know this is New York Giants football talk, but if you watch K&K Sports Show, one of our co-hosts, Carson, has a YouTube channel called Ticket Time. And us, of course, at K&K Sports Show, we're teaming up. It's March Madness time, everybody. And I just posted in the chat a link to join our free NCAA bracket challenge. And it's on ESPN. It's free of charge. All we ask is that you join, you subscribe to K&K Sports Show and Ticket Time on YouTube. And you will be entered into this contest. It's a bracket challenge. We're giving away a $75 gift card of your choice for first place, $25 gift card of your choice for second place. Just click on that link, put in your name, subscribe to the channels, and you'll be entered free of charge. I hope you can join us, everybody, and good luck to everyone. It's going to be a fun couple weeks of March Madness.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kenny.
Keith saying, Kenny, Paul, and Trevor cutting down the nets tonight.
We're all winners. We're all winners.
All right, so I'm going to pass it right back to you because you have an Eli Manning question, Paul. We got about 10 minutes left, by the way, guys. So Eli Manning question for everybody.
So we'll do this quick, and then we'll go to our bold predictions. So obviously, you see all kinds of things on Facebook, and both Kenny and I belong to a lot of these giant social media sites on Facebook. And one day I saw something where somebody posted that, and this is a Giant fan no less, that Eli Manning was not one of the top 30 Giants in Giants history, okay? Not one of the top 30 players in New York Giants history. And I looked at that, and I almost fell out of my chair because, needless to say, Eli holds almost every Giant quarterback record, beat the GOAT in 2 Super Bowls, 2 of the greatest games of all time. You know, on and on and on. This coming year, he will be eligible for the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but in my mind, he's a Hall of Famer. So my question to you, and let me just say this. I did some research. I looked up at least 16 different greatest Giants lists, and if he was not top 5 on every one of these lists, he was top 10. So I guess my question to you, and I know you've seen him play a little bit, Dutchy, but in your mind, is Eli Manning at least a top 30 Giant player of all time?
Top 5 in my opinion. From what I know, I've seen him. Yeah, his game management and that stuff. Yes, he is. I think he's on almost at the same level as Tom Brady with game management controls. I think he is a better arm than Tom Brady. But yeah, top 5 for me, definitely. And top 1 comedian, comedian duo was together with his brother in the sports. Yes,
Yeah.
they are definitely top 1, those two, because they make NFL fun.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's
Kenny?
awesome. I went on one list, Paul. I'm not even going to tell you what list I went on but I went on a list just to see top 30 players of all time. So let me ask you, for that guy who wrote this. So Eli Manning, and this is taken nothing away from number 30 to 26. So Bart Oates is better than Eli Manning. Jeremy Shockey is better than Eli Manning. Pete Gogolsek, I don't know who he is. I got to
Gogolet. Pete
Gogolet
Gogolet
is on that list before Eli. Hunter Jones and David Deal. Again, taking nothing away from these great Giants, but they're better than Eli Manning. So then I went to the top 5. Harry Carson. He has Eli at 4. Max, Mel Hine, Roosevelt
Mel
Brown,
Hine.
and LT. I'm putting Eli 2 because I didn't see Roosevelt Brown and Mel Hine. I seen LT. Eli got us 2 Super Bowls. Harry Carson, as great as he is with the Gatorade dunk with Parcells, he'll be number 3. But LT, and then it's Eli for me. So number 2 for Eli all day.
Yeah.
And whoever that clown is, he Eli probably said something nasty to him in a media thing that he didn't like an answer that Eli gave him somewhere along the lines, because that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. And he probably thought he was Chad Powers or something and didn't like his response. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, I appreciate you doing that, because that's equal to saying Elway and Manning aren't the 2 best Bronco quarterbacks of all time.
Exactly.
You don't make statements like that unless you want to get noticed. And he got noticed, but he noticed in the wrong way because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
simple words.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better. Thank you, Kenny. All right.
To be honest, one of those idiots, Colin Coward. I cannot stand that person, because the 1 minute he is lifting somebody up so high, and the next minute he drags them through the dirt. And that is Colin Coward's for me.
Not the biggest fan of his neither. So
no, that's why I don't listen to him.
I'll give this one to you, Paul, and I'll just answer real quick. Where does Tiki rank on your all-time list, Paul? I'm going to say top between 10 and 15 for me. I'll have to go back and make sure I don't miss anybody, and I'll answer that to you directly, Keith, where I got him. But it's going to be definitely between 10 and 15 for me.
Yeah, I know people argue about who's the greatest running back in Giants history, and maybe if Saquon had stayed, he eventually would have been considered. But to me, Tiki's the greatest running back. But I think with the long history of the Giants organization, he probably would rank about, but like you just said, between 10 and 15 on my list for the greatest Giants. So I think that's a perfect spot for him.
Awesome. So let's do one more fun one with Dutchy. We got about five or so minutes. If we go a couple minutes overtime, Kurt's paying the bills, so we're all good. He said he likes paying overtime, so we're good. All joking aside, let's do some bold. We got the draft coming up in a little over a month. It's gonna be fun because you got March Madness right now. As soon as March Madness is over, the draft is almost there. Well, let's just do a bold prediction. The Giants are picking 6. Dutchy's Broncos are picking 12. We'll go to Dutchy first. He's our special guest tonight. For your Broncos, Dutchy, a bold prediction what the Broncos could do. They can make a trade up. They can make a trade back. They could pick at 12. But a bold prediction, something that you think could be, a long shot, but you'd be very happy to see.
Happy to see. Happy to see is getting draft Brock Bowers at 12. Then I'm happy to see. But what I think is going to happen is Sean Payton doesn't care about the future. He thinks about now, and he's gonna trade up, probably to 5 or 6, and get JJ McCarthy. I think that is what is going to happen. I will not be happy with that because I think we need more key players on other positions, and I think that's where we need to use our draft capital. And then drafting a quarterback next year. That these players run the system for a year, and then draft a quarterback next year. But I don't think that's going to happen. John Payton is going to trade up to get JJ McCarthy.
Paul, I'm going to go next because I'm about to upset Dutchy a little more, I think, because my bold prediction, Paul and Dutchy and Keith and everybody listening out there, the Giants are going to trade back with the Denver Broncos. And we're going to we're pick 6 and pick 47 for pick 12 and Mr. Patrick Surtain II, PS2, coming over to the Giants, Dutchy. That's my bold prediction. And you get your quarterback, whether it's Drake May or JJ McCarthy or whoever's there at 6, you get your quarterback.
I sort of have 2 because I had one not realizing Dutchy was going to be on tonight. So my first prediction, and then let me ask you this, if you would do this, Dutchy. And I had this all written out, but then I changed it. So I'll do what I had changed it to. But anyway, the Giants and Broncos do make a trade. Would you make this trade, Dutchy? The Giants give you the 6th pick, but you give us the 12th pick, your 3rd pick this year, and your number 1 from next year in 2025. Would you make that trade?
Yes, I would, because that is what Sean Payton is going to do.
Okay.
So, and we have to stick with that. Personally, no, because I don't need a quarterback right now. I don't think we need one. Let's deal with what we have.
You're happy with Jarrett Stidham as your quarterback?
No, but we still have Ben DiNucci behind him, and I'd rather see Ben
He's
DiNucci
high on
play.
Ben DiNucci, I know.
Because Ben DiNucci has the arm. He is some.
I was going to say something, but he must be Tommy DeVito's cousin.
Maybe
the cousins on the backup quarterback world.
Man.
Isn't he Cutlets? Isn't it what you call him, Cutlets?
Right. Well, DiNucci would be a close cousin.
So yeah,
I'm cracking myself up.
I would see what DiNucci can do, and yeah, I would not trade up, not trade like that.
Okay.
I need to keep my pick for next year.
All right. Okay, so here would be my bold prediction: the Giants stay at 6. They draft Romeo Odunze at the 6th pick. They stay there at 6. But then, as we've seen Joe Shane not be afraid, trade back in to the 1st round. Low pick, go to, either the Ravens or the Chiefs or one of those teams, and give them our 2nd pick, the 47th pick, and our 3rd pick, the 70th pick, to jump back into the 1st round and to take Odunze's running mate from the University of Washington, Michael Penix, and our guy, Michael Penix Jr., Kenny, and jump back in and have already a match made in heaven with those two guys as our quarterback and wide receiver combo. And that would be my bold prediction.
And Dutchy, Paul knows this. I love the quarterback wide receivers that played with each other in college. You got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, Tua and Waddle. I mean, add Odunze and Penix for the next few years. Sign me up all day, Paul. I will take that. And you know, I absolutely love that. A couple comments to catch up, everybody. Michelle Knoppers, Albert's wife, saying she hopes we don't lose PS2. Keith saying the Giants are sitting fantastic for an amazing player as long as he doesn't play quarterback. Keith's also saying Broncos trade up into the late second round and take Spencer Rattler. Rattler's high on his list and mine too. He caught some eyes.
Yeah.
And I think he's a prime candidate to be jumping up boards into that second, maybe early third round, late second round for sure. So I could see that, Keith, happening. That's a good one. All right, boys, we're at the time. I think it's time for some final thoughts.
Wow.
Paul, I'm going to go to our special guest this evening. Dutchy, I want to thank you. Paul and I want to thank you, obviously, for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure. There's always the open invite for any of the Denver Bronco Roundup guys, Keith, Trevor, Jody, and, of course, yourself. You guys do amazing work over there at Denver Bronco Roundup. Real quick, why don't you tell everybody about Denver Bronco Roundup and then give us your final thoughts for this evening.
Yeah, the Denver Bronco Roundup consists out of Keith Bruckman, Jody Moncrief, myself, and Trevor Salzman. Every Tuesday and Friday we have a show. It's about 9 Eastern time for everybody. And yeah, we are looking forward to some more collaborations. I hope we can have another one of those around. What was that show called again?
Around the Keith called it the Bronco Roundup. Oh no, yeah, it was
around the horse.
But it was round the horn, around something, around the horseshoe.
Yeah,
around the horseshoe.
Around the horseshoe. Yeah, and hopefully we will have a show together very soon with the K&K and the Denver Brown to have a mock draft show. I'm looking forward to that one if we can get it all set up. And yeah, it's like I said, two of the greatest podcasts that about football and sports in general that are on the planet. The K&K Sports Show, and of course the Denver Bronco Roundup. The collaboration is tremendously. We love you guys.
Likewise, that's nice to hear. Thank you.
Paul, your final thoughts.
Again, thank you, Dutchy. It was fantastic having you on. Your knowledge and all of you guys' knowledge out in Denver are just phenomenal. Always a pleasure to have any of you guys on tonight. Thank you, fans. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. We love each and every one of you. The comments were fantastic. The questions were great. And, of course, to my co-host, Kenny K, great job, young man. And always a pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to try and get as many people in as I can here. Dutchy does this on Denver Bronco Roundup, so I'm stealing it from him. He likes to address the audience. So tonight, I want to thank Keith and Jody from Denver Bronco Roundup, our good friend Graham over there on YouTube. Always great to see you, Graham. Luby was saying hello earlier. Always great, Luby, to hear from you, of course. Albert's wife, Michelle, was joining us. Our good friend Clayton. Jerry Murr, long friend of ours. Good to hear from him tonight. Eddie Murphy, of course. Kurt Valenti was in there. Also had Mark. I think I said Mark's name. And many others. If I forgot you, I do apologize. Not done purposely. Just a lot. Just doing this on top of the end. At the end here, I got to start writing them down like Dutchy does, because Dutchy never misses a name. I hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I truly apologize. Make sure I acknowledge you in the chat that I forgot to mention you on here. But I want to thank everybody again. Thank you, Dutchy, Denver Bronco Roundup, for joining us tonight. Been a great show. The hour flies by. We will see everybody next Monday. Giant show is going to be every other week. Paul and I will be doing our other show, New York, New York. Baseball's close, and we're going to be talking some Mets and Yankees next week. And then check out Denver Bronco Roundup tomorrow night, 9 Eastern. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.